Hello, it's just after 8 o'clock. It's Wednesday evening, and it's time for the Pastor's Chat. Father Rob Arsenault coming from Annunciation of the Lord Parish here in Ottawa, Canada. So, again, this is a thing I do. I try to come on Wednesday evenings. Just, it's kind of a hangover from a former time when we couldn't talk as much as we can now, but kind of hung on to it. So people seem to appreciate it and just like to have a little chat from the pastor, go online and just talk about some of the things that have been going on and maybe kind of some short-term things where we might be heading next. I just want to sort of a general feel like here we are at the end of really the last day of January, so already into February. And it's been a relatively mild winter so far. I know we're not done yet. We're about maybe halfway through. December wasn't too bad. A little cold spell there beginning of January, but that's kind of even that's warmed up now. So it's been kind of nice. And this is in between time. Like in the church, we finish Christmas, and then we go into ordinary time. And fairly soon, another 2 weeks, we're going to be coming into Ash Wednesday, the beginning of Lent, which is really the start trip down to Easter and springtime. But there's sort of a time here, like this sort of a in between moment where we're just kind of getting finishing off one thing and heading into another, and it's kind of interesting times really in a way. So we're just getting ready for this. We haven't quite finished that, and where does that leave us? Well, lately it's been frankly we just got back from Detroit, so I talked about that a little bit last time. We gathered in Detroit as kind of a kind of companions of the cross, just to kind of get together, sort of it's kind of a development time. It's really we call it pastors' days, but it's really for everybody. And we did some stuff with Encounter Ministry. Came back from that. I preached last weekend. I'll talk a bit more about that. And then got out skiing. Like it's just my first ski trip of the year. The snow hasn't been super, deep or great, but we managed to get up to Mont Saint Marie and had a great ski for Monday. And then we had the reveal with the artwork. That was the big story, really, of this week. So Adele Pierce, who the artist that's been working on both the design inside the church and then the fine art of both Mary and the angel and the Annunciation and really the whole new design of our sanctuary. And it's just nice to have Adele kind of talk about it. She had a great line last night. She said, I thought about it more than I actually painted. Like at the time of the creation of that, like the creative process is more about problem solving than it is about actually putting paint on canvas, because you have to think through all the okay, is Mary going to have her whole body shown or just her upper torso? Is this going to be the light coming from this angle, if this position of this person and that position of that person, and the whole thing has to tell a story, and it's really just kind of neat. So last night we had that. So Adele was able to give us a kind of a little lecture on it with the artwork there in the sanctuary. If you want to see it, it's actually posted probably about two videos below this one, and you'll be able to see it there, and just the whole lectures there. It's really kind of fun, and a few questions from the audience. We had a little social afterwards, and I just really enjoyed that. And now kind of continuing that process, of could we take the same colors and the use of that natural wood and extend it out into the rest of the church, where we could do some things with the windows and just to highlight that, and maybe one of the couple of the doors might have a similar kind of theme to them. And yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to that, and it just this will be over the next months, best years, but again, the continuing vision of taking a relatively open, the church it is what it is. It was, it's been around for 40 years, and it's probably time for just I think a criticism. It's just that having more of a focus and more of a theme now to kind of warm it up and make it a little bit more homey. Actually, that was the word that she was using, that people would feel comfortable when they're there, that there's a beauty that's within the building. So it's all very good. So that was all that part. So ski trip on Monday, art exhibit on Tuesday, pastor's chat on Wednesday. That's just tonight. That's a relatively quiet day today. Big day tomorrow at the chance. We have some big meetings tomorrow, and just some, again, things are happening there that are quite good. But I want to go back on to something I preached on the weekend. It took a bit of a chance for me. This is I wanted to talk a bit about, again, this transition time coming back from being away in Detroit, and the companions were together and Encounter Ministry, and sort of what did we draw from that, and then the gospel sort of lent itself to that. So it's a day in the life of Jesus. He goes to a synagogue, he talks, he proclaims, And again, this often is surrounding Jesus' teaching, is that people are moved by it. It's not just another talk. I apologize. I was fighting that sneeze for about 10 minutes. I have no idea what that sounded like in the microphone, but I do apologize. I couldn't get to the mic in time. So there it is. So Jesus goes up and he preaches. He talks about the kingdom. He talks about himself. He talks about God. And people are moved by it because of the strength and conviction in which he talks. Sometimes you get people that are just have that knack for giving information, yes, but then putting into a narrative and giving a reason for it that is not always so great. So that's part of it. So that's proclamation. But then he falters. So this is what the Messiah was promised to be, and this is what he's doing. But you put those two things together, it's a very powerful witness. I can't make people believe, right? It's not really my goal as a priest. It just doesn't work. And I don't like just railing against the wider culture and saying, well, this is terrible times. And they're challenging times. I think all times are challenging. But we live in an age of skepticism and I think a bit of cynicism that makes it a little harder for people to believe, I think, in the Christian message. But when you can present it in a clear and credible way, just something CCO, that's really a catch from their kind of terminology, to present the gospel in a clear and credible way. And Companion's take on that is something Father Bob said, that we present the basic gospel message with new means. So you don't change the message. The message is the message. Jesus is who he says he is. He does the things he says he can do. Like, that doesn't change, but how you present it. Like I'm doing right now, I'm speaking to a camera. I'm doing this online. So it's a different methodology, but nonetheless a similar kind of story. The narrative doesn't change. So to say the message with clarity, and then to follow that up with praying with people. And I did something at the end of the homily. I wasn't sure. Like, often I'll finish my homilies with a prayer. Sometimes a prayer about a particular virtue that I've been preaching about. But last weekend, I just took a moment to say, okay, let's just be quiet and just ask. God could put an image on our hearts. He can, sometimes some people will have this picture in their mind, God-given picture. Sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's an emotion, an idea, kind of a concept. And again, not an audible thing necessarily, but you just say, I love you, or patience, or have courage, that's a good thing. And I was surprised, actually, first of all, how open people were. Like, it just didn't seem to, I kept presenting in a fairly, kind of gentle way. And people seemed to relate to it and said, yeah, they did have a word and a sense of God speaking to them. And then from there, to pray for even healing. So this is what Encounter is really known for. Now, when they gave us the course, they were very clear that they don't, in many cases, all the senior people who are doing it have been in this for years and years. And they'd say that they've prayed with many, many people, and not very much seems to happen. Although the people feel loved and supported and prayed for, it's always a good thing. But once in a while, like, some pretty amazing things will happen. And you have to be willing to take a chance in faith over and over again, without great results, that eventually there could be a breakthrough. And suddenly people are being healed, and pain is leaving them, and there seems to be a much more powerful conviction. But the fact that you just hung in there and stayed with it. So they spend a lot of time in their formation just kind of making sure people are doing this for the right reasons. They're not trying to, play healer, or they're not trying to go to their own heads. They really want to serve the people that they're praying with, and they're very solid in their own faith, because you can easily get kind of sidetracked here. This is not a proof of our faith. It shouldn't kind of, I believe because. It's more, I believe and it sort of accents it or helps it to come forward and make it even that much stronger. So again, those two together, see, and this is what I kind of summed it up with at the end of my homily, was the sense that we live in this time now, which is no longer Christendom. It's no longer a time when the faith is sort of echoed back by the wider culture. It just isn't like that now. As a kid, I kind of remember that, like, to have a prayer before something. To even in public school, I remember we did the Our Father, I think, like at the beginning of the morning. It was like you had the national anthem and you said a prayer. That was in a public school. Well, that just doesn't happen anymore, and for all kinds of reasons, and we don't need to get into all that. But when you're in a culture that's moved from Christendom into a new apostolic age, you're going to need tools and methodology which is more effective. And I think this sort of notion of moving in the Spirit, being very attentive to what people are, where they're coming from and what they need, and then be able to respond to that in a prophetic way. Again, at baseline, that we're not afraid to sort of witness to the faith and to love people in a sense of to pray with them. But then to be able to pray effectively, like maybe they need a word or a bit of encouragement. Maybe you have an image or an idea that they might be able to draw from, and even, God willing, to pray with people that they might be healed. You know, that certain pains and elements could be lifted from them. I think that's absolutely amazing. And not to be afraid to kind of step into that. And again, with some training, with some support. I don't think we want to just turn you all loose now. That's not really the point of this conversation. But it is a sense of that it is possible. We're about to start Alpha tomorrow night. This is another big thing we're happening this week. And Alpha is in sense a 10-week kind of embodiment of what I just described. There's a very clear presentation of the gospel done with a lot of witnesses of, if you've ever taken an Alpha, the people, it's amazing. Like the where they're coming from, their lives is very, very broken. And there comes a very critical moment in Alpha, usually about the 5th, 6th week, where you pray with people. You slowly ramp up the prayer each weekend, or each week that the people come. But near the end, you really do actually, at a certain point, pray over somebody in this manner. And that's often when there's a change. Now, the change sometimes is quite spectacular. Sometimes it's just very, very gentle. But it's often a turning point where people come into a new understanding of their faith and a deepening of who they are as a person. And often some pretty amazing things can happen. So again, we're doing that as well. So it's not like one thing or the other, or we're suddenly going to stop being this and start being that. It's multiple things. The seniors ministry, the weekend homilies, the teachings of the church, the companions of the cross kind of approach to evangelization. We have CCO, we have Net Ministries. They're kind of like wings to ours. We still have a typical parish. We have Knights of Columbus. We have the Catholic Women's League. We have, lots of things going on right now. I know they're working on RCIA. We have like 12 people looking at becoming Catholic this year, which is a wonderful thing. We have catechesis. These are all elements of which we're opportunity to proclaim the gospel. But just that one little step further of seeking God's will for that person and praying about that. And if they're open to it, maybe just to say a few words or possibly place your hand just on someone's shoulder and ask God to really touch their hearts. And I do think this is a bit of a game changer. Again, will it fix everything? No, it's never that easy. But it's a step, I think, into this pragmatic mysticism that I've been talking about. And it's a tool and I think a medium which makes it more likely that people will be able to take up, the concept of Christianity and the incarnation and Christ's love among us and God's grace working through our lives. So all kind of interesting thoughts, eh? Like it's all kind of, in some ways it's so basic, it's almost embarrassing to talk about. And yet at the same time, I think it's so hopeful because I think it actually works. Maybe God knew what he was talking about. This is the, again, not just knowing Jesus, not just being able to quote Jesus, but to live as Jesus lived. And this is what he did. He proclaimed the good news and he backed it up. He backed it up with experience. Proclamation and demonstration equals faith in Jesus. So that's a pretty good place to end. So again, just acknowledging Alain is on tonight. God bless you and the priests of the world. That's great. Angela, good evening. That's a good one. And my image was Saint Therese. So there's Alain. He was there at Mass and just sharing his own, the little flower, Therese, who lived she had a very deep conviction in her life as a saint. She's a fairly modern saint. So we're talking just the last century. So like a little over 100 years ago. But affected so many people. Like she died, I think she was only 24. And she got sick in the convent and passed away. And she had written all this stuff. And again, not very many people knew about that. Even her own sisters in the convent didn't really know. She was so hidden and so far away. and yet a Carmelite, and yet has become this almost a very popular saint in our age. The little flower. So let's ask her. Maybe we'll ask for her intercession. So as we finish up tonight, I just ask the Lord would watch over, guide, and protect you. The saints and angels would intercede for you, and a Blessed Mother would wrap you in the mantle of her peace. And Saint Therese would the little flower, her little way, would also intercede for all of you as we come closer to Christ. She always said that she was too small. That's why she needed God to help her. But in that kind of childlike innocence, she became a doctor of the church, and that's no easy feat. God bless her, and God bless all of you. Take care.